My period hadn't come for 2 months, so I went to see a gynecologist. The doctor pushed her glasses up while holding the report I just had done. Your husband? He didn't come? I shook my head, a sense of foreboding washing over me. He's busy with work, he doesn't have time. The woman doctor in her 40s looked at me with a somewhat sympathetic gaze. I was terrified, hoping it wasn't what I feared. You're pregnant, let him take good care of you. No matter how busy work gets, your wife is the most important. Sure enough, I was pregnant. The fetus is very healthy, just take some folic acid. I sat dazed on a bench downstairs from the hospital, holding the folic acid the doctor had prescribed. It was early spring, the sun warming my skin, but I felt icy all over. Because I don't have a husband, only an ex-boyfriend. And we just broke up last week. I don't know what to do with this child. I can't bear to have him aborted, so I'll keep him for now. If it doesn't work out, I'll be a single mom, it'll be harder, but I'll manage. I went to work as usual on Monday. Lucas walked out of the office and stopped in front of me. He left on a business trip right after we broke up, just as I imagined, there wasn't a single surprising detail. He was still the same, not like me, who'd been inconsolable for a week. Did you do this report? Want me to take a look at how absurd the numbers are? Lucas was like this at work, utterly ruthless. We'd been together for more than 2 years and never let anyone discover our relationship. I had chased him relentlessly at first, convinced I could melt that icebox of a heart. Unfortunately, I never became his exception. His eyes behind the lenses were studying me, and when he saw me zoning out his tone grew even sterner. Cassie, are you still not sober after a weekend? Do you want me to give you another day off? He was much harsher than usual, I didn't know why. Although he didn't know I was carrying his child, pregnant women are easily emotional, and I felt both angry and guilty. Yeah, the club guy was so handsome, he's had me all flustered ever since. His gaze went colder, his lips pressed tight. I knew this was how he showed he was very angry, but I wasn't afraid at all. If Lucas dared to be mean to me again, I'd pack up and leave. I'm done with this. After running the resignation letter format through his head, Lucas spoke again. His expression was complicated, he took a deep breath. Give it to me before noon. This was not what I had imagined. Whenever he was that angry before, he would either ignore me or make trouble for me in other ways. This time he was so calm, apparently there were truly no feelings left. I picked up the document. It was the one I had asked the new intern Lisa to submit for me last Friday, she's the one I'm mentoring now. I examined the file closely and found that the data was completely different from what I had produced. Fortunately there were backups on the computer, I cross-checked everything carefully and confirmed there were no problems. By the time Lisa came back from the pantry, I walked over with a smile. Lisa, did you turn in that file for me last Friday? She avoided my gaze a little. I did. Is that so? I remember my figures were all correct, but Mr. Lucas said I made a mistake. Lisa sprang to her feet, tears welling in her eyes as she looked at me, then lowered her head and apologized pitifully in front of me. Miss Cassie, I'm sorry. I accidentally soiled the document, couldn't read the data, so I reprinted it. I didn't expect the data to be wrong. Our company has lots of these documents. The templates are all the same, change the title and the data and you can print it again. In that she wasn't lying. I snorted. Then why didn't you call me? Lisa looked past me, her tears fell harder. I did call, but I don't know why you didn't pick up. I rolled my eyes, this green tea was starting to lie. Last Friday I was rushing home to throw out Lucas's things, my phone was shoved in my pocket the whole time, and there was no call from her at all. I dug through the call log on my phone, found last Friday, and held the screen up to Lisa. Look for yourself, did you make a call? Lisa's voice was small, almost frightened. Miss Cassie, even if you delete it, it's not necessarily. I was about to say more when Lucas's voice came from behind. Is admitting you're wrong that hard? I didn't know whom he was addressing. I turned to snap back at him, but found him staring at Lisa. She handed you the file out of trust, it's your fault you sullied it. She can refuse your calls after work hours. Lisa's face went pale, she looked at me with pleading eyes, but I ignored her. She seemed to give up, no longer fragile as before. So she handed the file to me, and in turn, and that's not a mistake? Lucas glanced at her coldly. Her mistake was handing the file to someone clumsy like you. Can't an intern even hand in a file properly? Lisa had no reply, she stared at me with resentful eyes. I was baffled, Lucas was the one who spoke to her. What did that have to do with me? Her hatred was utterly unreasonable. Was it just because he was handsome? Go to finance to settle your pay. We don't hire idiots here. Lucas was always sharp-tongued. When we were together he often spoke to me that way, and each time it made me so mad I could hardly stand it. I hadn't expected him to seem rather pleased doing it to someone else. After speaking he looked back at me, come to my office. I didn't know what he wanted now, was he looking for trouble with me? He leaned against his office chair, his eyes staring at me through his lenses, and I felt like he was about to be harsh with me. A minute passed and I felt increasingly uneasy. Just as I was about to storm out the door, Lucas spoke. I'm sorry. What? I looked up in surprise, this was the first time I'd ever heard Lucas apologize. He pressed a hand to his forehead, seeming a little helpless. I shouldn't have said that to you before. Lucas's outburst made me feel a little embarrassed. If he'd been angry at me I could have snapped back a couple of times. But an apology? I genuinely didn't know what to do. It's my fault too. I shouldn't have been lazy and handed the file to her. This was the first time since we broke up that I spoke to him calmly. I still remember the hysteria of the breakup day. I must have looked terrible then, shouting so loudly. Suddenly we fell silent in the office, the atmosphere awkward and charged, and I just wanted to get away as quickly as possible. How have you been this past week? This was the first time Lucas had ever asked me a personal question during work hours. When we were dating I used to count on there being no one else in the office for him to act spoiled with. Back then he still wore that stern face and scolded me. I laughed it off, teasing, pretty good, actually. Doing well. There was a trace of wistfulness in Lucas's eyes, then in the next second he pulled his face back to seriousness. I wondered if I had misread him. It's good that you aren't letting personal emotions affect your work. Get out, keep working. His eyes were a little red, I felt like he wanted to cry. I immediately dismissed the thought, pregnant women get stupid for 3 years, right? Lucas could never cry. Lisa had already started packing her things. She'd only been at the job for a couple of days, so she didn't have much. She finished tidying up in no time. When she was about to leave, she came up to me and said something softly. Wishing you and Lucas a lifetime of happiness. I tightened my grip on the teacup. How did she know? No one at the company knew about my relationship with Lucas. How did she find out? I'd always thought Lisa looked familiar, and suddenly realized I might have seen her when Lucas and I were out walking in the neighborhood. But what good does any of that do now? We'd already broken up. Thinking that made me a little unhappy, but I still smiled at Lisa. Thank you for your blessing. We will. Seeing the flicker of distortion on Lisa's face as I wished, I felt like a victorious old hen. Ridiculous, after being with Lucas for 2 years, I'd at least absorbed his maddening, lethal talents. Little Lisa thought she could take me on? The company moved fast, so someone quickly filled Lisa's position. The new intern was not only good-looking and sweet-talking but also conscientious at work, anyway, far more likable than Lisa. Sis, are you free after work? I glanced at Sean. He had a delicate, boyish face, no wonder so many of the older women at the company looked out for him. What's up? Maggie and the others are having a gathering, she asked me to invite you. I glanced at Maggie. Her eyes fluttered, and in an instant I understood what she meant. She was plotting to set me up again. They didn't know I'd had a boyfriend before, they all assumed I was 25 and had never been in a relationship. But in fact I had just broken up and didn't want to start something new so soon. No, thanks, Sean sounded a little disappointed. He hung his head. Are you not going because of me? I heard from Maggie that you often hang out with them. If sister won't go because of me, then I'll head home tonight and won't bother you. After all, I'm just a newcomer, I'm not at the level of joining your gatherings yet. Damn, Sean in this state somehow reminded me of that manipulative Lisa. Every time she slacked off she had this exact expression. Still, Sean looking like this was kind of appealing. Maggie must have heard Sean, because a faint smile played at the corner of her mouth. Alright, I'll go. Sean immediately lifted his head, his big eyes sparkling as he looked at me, like a puppy that had just been given a bone. Then sister, wait for us after work, okay? I began to despise myself inwardly. I'm pregnant, I shouldn't be entertaining these unhealthy thoughts. Suddenly I felt a bit cold. When I turned, I saw Lucas holding a teacup, expressionless, staring this way. I didn't even know how long he'd been listening. His eyes were red again. I figured he must have some issue with his eyes, they've been getting red from time to time lately. Or should I gently suggest he see a doctor? Nah, he's just an ex-boyfriend. Why bother? The dinner was at a barbecue place that tasted really good. There were 5 or 6 of us, so we booked a private room. Sean sat right beside me. While we were waiting for the meat to arrive, Maggie started in. Sean, how old are you this year? Do you have a girlfriend? Sean seemed a little nervous. 22, no girlfriend. Maggie's eyes crinkled with a smile, and the others looked at Sean, and at me beside him. So, is there a girl you like? Sean's ears flushed red, he glanced at me timidly. Yes. I went numb. It can't be what I'm thinking, can it? Sean likes me? I thought we'd only known each other a few days. Maggie finally shut up, her ambiguous gaze flitting between Sean and me. The others grinned and snickered. I felt a little awkward and tried to smooth things over. Oh dear, why hasn't the food arrived yet? I'm starving. Sean, go check, will you? Sean came out of the private room with a flushed face. The moment he left, the room became lively. Maggie laughed the loudest. Oh Cassie, look how obedient Sean is to you. I pretended to be annoyed. Maggie, don't joke, Sean's thin-skinned. Maggie covered her mouth and couldn't stop laughing. Just as she was about to say more, her phone rang. She glanced at the screen and answered carefully. Hello, Mr. Lucas. Yes. Are you coming too? All right. Maggie put down the phone, some words left unspoken. I picked up the mixed lotus root slices from the table and asked casually, what? Mr. Lucas is coming too? Maggie sighed. Yeah, he asked if we were having a get-together and said he wanted to, reconnect with us. The private room fell instantly silent, because no one would believe that line from Lucas. He'd never shown up to any of our gatherings before, and nobody knew what had gotten into him this time. Thinking of how serious he looked at work, I silently put my chopsticks down. Maybe someone else had done something wrong and he'd come to mete out justice. Causing trouble is a kind of social interaction too, isn't it? When Sean returned he carried 2 plates of meat, set them on the table, and voluntarily started grilling. There are a lot of people tonight, and the kitchen still needs to cut more meat. I brought these 2 plates first, help yourselves. His grilling was practiced and confident, it was obvious he ate like this often. Once the meat was done he picked up a slice and put it on my plate. Sister, eat, aren't you hungry? Everyone at the meal were close colleagues, so no one was upset. If anything, they teased us. Since getting pregnant I get hungry easily, and I didn't bother being bashful this time. Thanks, you pass some to Maggie and the others too. Maggie waved her hand and reached for her chopsticks, then said to the people around them, oh, no need. Sean, just take good care of Cassie, our sister, we'll eat on our own. The remark was dripping with innuendo, and Sean's face flushed. I sighed inwardly as I ate the barbecue. Sean really was a fresh college graduate, he still couldn't handle such an obvious tease. His face was as red as a monkey's but he needed more practice. Sorry I'm late. Lucas pushed open the door to the room, his deep voice filling the private booth. Everyone stood up. Mr. Lucas. He pulled out the chair next to me and gestured for everyone to sit. Dig in, tonight it's on me. For a moment the private room fell silent, only the sizzle of the barbecue and the occasional pop of oil. Lucas frowned. Why is everyone so quiet? Is this how you usually do gatherings? I couldn't help rolling my eyes and muttering under my breath, who here dare speak up with you around? I don't know if Lucas heard me, but he slowed his tone. Am I causing you trouble? Don't worry, just treat me like an ordinary coworker. Though he said that, no one in the private room spoke up. Seeing the crease between his brows made me feel a little pang. 2 years of feelings aren't something one can just forget, are they? Sean, put some of the barbecue on Mr. Lucas's plate for him to try. Sean paused for a moment, picked up several pieces and placed them on Lucas's plate. Mr. Lucas, this is very tasty, try some. Lucas glanced at me, then to Sean with a neutral tone and thanked him. Thank you, your cooking's good. Sean had only been at the company a few days, so he wasn't that afraid of Lucas. When Lucas praised his cooking skills, he actually turned shy. What are you saying? This is easy. Mr. Lucas, if you like it, have more. Lucas lowered his head and picked up a piece of roasted meat from the plate. The mood in the private room eased a bit. Gradually people began to talk. I exhaled with relief, the dinner was finally back to normal. The moment I thought about how I had covered for Lucas earlier, I felt like slapping myself. Oh well, the dining atmosphere was important too. I told myself it was for the little one in my belly. Come on, sister, eat more. Sean was unusually forward, constantly serving me. Thanks, you should have some too. Sister, you go ahead. Because everyone relaxed a bit, Maggie resumed the joke from earlier. Oh my, I really think Sean treats Cassie so well, you two should just be together. I instinctively glanced at Lucas beside me, his eyes were dark, a cold smile at the corner of his mouth. This was not a good sign. Sean scratched his head beside him. Maggie, don't joke about that. Lucas spoke up suddenly, even dropping a piece of meat onto his plate as he did, as if the words had slipped out unintentionally. Doesn't Cassie have a boyfriend? Maggie and Sean both froze. I gritted my teeth. We broke up. Maggie came back to herself. Cassie's not very nice, she had a partner before and didn't tell us. But since it's over, don't keep dwelling on him. People have to move on. I nodded. Yeah, I've been moving on. Sean was also a bit curious about my breakup. He asked me, who broke up with whom? Maggie shot Sean a look, signaling that he shouldn't ask that, but clearly she was just as interested. After all, it had been so long since the breakup, aside from the identity of the boyfriend, there wasn't much left to hide. I did. Facing a bunch of curious eyes, I shrugged indifferently. I caught him with a hostess. I said it calmly, but the others seemed even more excited than I was, each one righteously indignant, as if they wanted to drag my ex out and execute him on the spot. Jesus, what a piece of work. He really couldn't control himself? Cassie, way to go, saving it for the new year, huh? Sis, he's awful. If I had a sister I'd never do something like that. None of them knew the scorned male lead they were spitting on was here, eating with them. Lucas's face grew darker and darker. All right, just eat. The moment he spoke, the people in the private room instantly fell silent, as if to spare me, they began talking about harmless, trivial things. Sean looked at me with a complicated expression. Sister, you're so great, how could you fall for such a scumbag? I glanced at the scumbag in Sean's mouth and felt unexpectedly pleased. Maybe I was blind then. He was good-looking, so I fell for him. Sean seemed to muster some courage, he looked at me. Sister, I'm good-looking too. The girls at school all say so. Before he finished, Lucas's cup suddenly fell to the ground and shattered. He stared expressionlessly at the cup, broken into pieces. Sean's words were cut off as if he'd lost his nerve. He lowered his head and his long lashes hid his eyes. I'll go call the waiter to clean this up. I stood up and slipped past Sean to leave the private room. I had meant to refuse him, but now that he hadn't finished speaking, I couldn't. Sigh. Are you regretting it? Because he didn't go on and confess? Footsteps sounded behind me and Lucas grabbed my arm from behind. It has nothing to do with you. I looked at Lucas coldly, trying to make him let go. Heh. He chuckled lightly, and a prickling ran over my scalp. Great, he was about to start again. Nothing to do with you? Cassie, how long has it been since we broke up and you're already falling for someone else? Lucas's eyes were rimmed red, as if tears were gathering. The private room was on the 3rd floor, there was no one in the corridor here, so I didn't have to worry anymore about people discovering our relationship like before. What about you? You couldn't control yourself and ordered a hostess before you even broke up, well at least I only sought one after we split. He must have been pricked by my words. He slowly released me, but his tone was firmer than I'd ever heard. I didn't order a hostess, she got my number herself. I actually believed Lucas. He was that kind of person, proudly aloof, he wouldn't drink much even when business required it. But our problems weren't limited to a hostess named Fiona. She merely lit the fuse that led to our breakup. I joined Lucas's company right after graduation. His face fit completely within my aesthetic ideal. His serious, meticulous attitude at work made my heart race, and so I began my campaign of courtship. Not only did I fuss over him on the phone, I would secretly bring him breakfast. Back then I dove bravely into the abyss called Lucas with a heart full of love, and after a year of trying I finally got a response from him. He agreed to me over the phone. It wasn't very formal, but I was so happy I cried. Yet a girl's dream always ends. Lucas was not a romantic man. Our dates were usually at home, he read while I watched variety shows. He never cared about any holiday or anniversary, he was even on a business trip on my birthday, and all he said on the phone was sorry. Gradually my heart cooled, and I told Lucas I wanted to break up. He was very angry that night. We had both had a little to drink and, half asleep and muddled, we went to bed. Since then he moved in with me, and I stopped bringing up the breakup. Perhaps being this close meant he did have feelings for me. But he was still the same as before, except for being very eager about that one thing. At other times he was the same stubborn, deadpan person. I felt exhausted and wanted a break. I hadn't intended to break up, I wanted to talk to him properly, to share what was in my heart, to try to save the relationship. But while he was in the shower I received a call on his phone. Mr. Lucas, it's Fiona, do you remember? The Red Star Box 306 last week? Those words hit me like an ice cellar, I completely lost my reason. Years of resentment erupted in an instant. I flung his phone and stood at the bathroom door demanding answers. He wrapped a towel around himself and came out, his tone as calm as ever. I don't know her. I wanted to believe him, and I did believe that single sentence, but it was only that one sentence, just as it had been so many times before. He never held me, never soothed me, never told me not to be angry. I remember being furious, smashing the vase that had been on the table, then telling him to get out. We're over. Saying that made me feel a lot lighter. Apart from his slightly reddened eyes, he showed no expression. He asked me if I was serious. Yes. After I said it he looked at me intently. Then he dressed and left the house. That night and many nights after, I leaned against the bed and cried like a fool. My thoughts kept returning to the man's face in front of me. He had remained silent, as if waiting for my answer. I trust you. Lucas's eyes lit up, and he suddenly pulled me into his arms. I'll move back tomorrow. Look, another one of those perfunctory notices. He didn't try to soothe me, he thought that as long as I said I trusted him, the matter was closed. I pushed him away and looked into his puzzled eyes. No need. Why? His gaze held both incomprehension and panic. Saying I trust you isn't the same as agreeing to get back together, understand? I turned and walked off, The delay had already been too long. If I didn't get back to Maggie and the others soon, they'd get suspicious. By the time I called the waiter back, Lucas was still standing in the same spot, motionless. I ignored him and went over, saying to the waiter, "This is the room, please." The waiter nodded and went into the private room. I followed him in. After a moment I asked Lucas, "Aren't you coming in, Mr. Lucas?" "No, I have other things to do." "Send me the bill tomorrow." His voice was odd, as if tinged with a nasal sound. I didn't think much of it and closed the room door. Since Lucas had said he had matters to attend to, everyone in the room heard him and no one mentioned it. I felt listless. Everything that needed to be said had been said, and yet I still couldn't shake my unhappiness. "Sis, try this." Sean picked up a piece of grilled fish and put it in front of me. I suddenly felt nauseous. I used to hate eating fish, and it got worse after I became pregnant. Ugh. I bolted out of the private room and emptied my stomach in the restroom. After cleaning up, I unexpectedly saw Sean standing at the door, looking at me with a complicated expression. "What, can't you get an upset stomach?" He shook his head. "Sister, you look exactly like my cousin did when she was pregnant." I said nothing. I refused to believe he really knew I was pregnant. Sean took out a bottle of folic acid. "When my cousin was pregnant, the doctor prescribed this too." "You." I was furious. I hadn't expected Sean to like stealing things. He shook his head. "You ran too fast just now and bumped your bag. This fell out from inside." I went silent. Sean sighed and stepped closer to me. "Have you thought about what you want to do with this baby?" "Stay." My words stunned Sean a little. "He's already wearing the green hat, you're still going to have his child?" It was the first time Sean wasn't so flippant. I was still not used to it. "This is my child. It has nothing to do with him." He seemed to accept my explanation. "All right, if you need anything, you can come to me." Sean and I returned to the private room one after the other. Maggie offered a few token words of concern and then went back to chatting. I exhaled. Thankfully, no one knew. Lucas went on another business trip. This time he'd be back in 3 days. But unlike before, he brought gifts for everyone in the CEO's office. Mine was a pastry I usually liked to eat. This pastry could only be bought in the city he was visiting this time. Normally I'd have to wait several days for the courier. "Sis, what did you get?" "What about food?" "Yours?" Sean looked puzzled. "Mine's a can of green tea." Everyone's gifts were slightly different but of similar value, so there was nothing to compare. "Cassie, come in with me." Lucas tapped my desk to remind me. I walked into the office step by step under my coworker's sympathetic gazes. "Is it good?" I was a little puzzled. "What?" He showed no expression, sitting in the office chair and looking at me. "The pastries I brought back." "What's wrong with Lucas? Took the wrong pills?" "They're okay." He narrowed his eyes. "Not bad?" The fear he exerted over me in an instant washed over me again. "Delicious." I answered firmly and forcefully, vividly expressing my fondness for the pastry. "I'll bring you some next time." "You've been looking thin lately." I widened my eyes and stared at Lucas. Why was he being so gentle? Did he know I was pregnant? "You think I've lost weight?" There was worry written all over his face. "Yeah, you look a lot thinner." "No kidding, the kid in my belly, just like his father, never lets anyone rest. My morning sickness is brutal. Not being able to eat doesn't make you slender for nothing." "Do you know why?" I asked him cautiously, afraid of hearing what I didn't want to hear. "No idea, but you definitely haven't been taking care of yourself. If you want, I can move back in, that way I can look after you." I first realized Lucas had such thick skin, but I was also glad he still didn't know he was going to be a father. "No, that's not necessary. It's not appropriate." "All right." He seemed to have expected my words and didn't say anything more. As I was about to leave, I heard Lucas's voice behind me. Cassie, this time I'll be the one to chase you. I know how out of line I've been before, and I'll change. Forcing a smile down, I replied coldly, Mem. Not bad, noble and aloof, neither refusing nor accepting. I happily returned to my seat, picked up a pastry and tossed it into my mouth. Actually, keeping this child was the last thread of hope I had for Lucas. To be fair, he was barely a passable boyfriend. At least, on that matter we were well matched. Thinking of his brave bearing made me a little nostalgic, if only he could really change. Getting back together wasn't impossible. Yes, I'm a lecher. The whole company knew Lucas was courting me. He was flashy about it, sending flowers and gifts. As if trying to make up for everything he owed me before. Sean's gaze grew more plaintive. Sister, have you fallen for him? That obvious? I touched my face. Oh, so I'd been smiling all along. No, of course not. Don't say such things. He sighed. Is this child Mr. Lucas's? I jumped, quickly covering his mouth. I glanced around warily and only relaxed when I saw no one was paying attention this way. Watch your words and actions. My reaction was too much, Sean must have noticed. He curled his lip. Then what are you waiting for to say yes to Mr. Lucas? Do you want to be a single mom? That damned kid has shown his true colors ever since Lucas started courting me. He's nothing like the charming, coy person he used to be. He put me through that before, he has to suffer a little too. I mustn't let him off easy. Right. Sean was more worked up than I was. Don't let him off, sis. You mustn't be swayed by those sugar-coated assaults. I felt a little guilty. What if I'd already been beguiled? Lucas came to bring me lunch again. Maggie and the others didn't dare look up. Cassie, this is your favorite. I kept a cold face. Leave it over there. Lucas set the lunchbox down and stared at me intently. Eat it while it's hot, it's bad for your health if it cools. I bit my lip silently. Who could resist such a gentle Lucas? I really can't hold out. Sean ran over, picked up the lunchbox, and without even looking at Lucas turned to ask me, Sis, I'm so hungry, can I eat it? Damn it, why should you get to eat it? Take it. The woman was indeed saying one thing and meaning another. I felt a little guilty, afraid Lucas would back down. When I first chased after him, I hadn't been treated like this just once. But he only had red rims to his eyes, his voice husky. It's okay, I'll bring you one next time. I breathed a sigh of relief. It turns out he was more sincere than I had imagined. Tomorrow is the prenatal checkup day, so I took a half day off. Knowing Lucas's old habits, he definitely wouldn't have approved it before, since I wrote bad mood as the reason. But now Lucas just looked at me and asked why I was feeling down. I don't know. He frowned for a moment, then approved my leave. Go clear your head. I'll give you the day. I walked out of the office holding the leave note, and Sean came over. Did you get it approved? Of course, as if I wouldn't recognize who I am. The kid curled his lip. Mr. Lucas is such a hypocrite. Last time I said I was feeling down, he told me to focus on work, said that would fix it. Alright, stop being cheeky, go to work. The next day I went to the hospital. It was especially crowded today, and I'd been lazy and gotten up late, so I sat in the lobby waiting. It wasn't until near noon that I finished the series of tests, and I walked into the consultation room with the report. It was the same female doctor from last time. Not bad, but you must eat less. If the fetus gets too big it'll make delivery difficult. It's all Lucas's fault, what an idiot, feeding me 5 meals a day, and always giving me exactly what I crave. I've gained quite a bit recently. Auntie, I'm here. Sean suddenly appeared at the clinic door. I was startled. Why are you here? The female doctor looked us over again and again. Ahem, this is my nephew. Do you two know each other? I nodded. Colleague. The female doctor seemed to breathe a sigh of relief, then looked at Sean. What are you here for? Sean held a takeout box. My uncle made the dish you like for lunch. I brought it especially for you. Put it down. Just follow the precautions I just mentioned. It's already 3 months along now, so you can. Sean's hair almost stood on end listening. Aunt, we'll be leaving now. The female doctor looked a little puzzled but still nodded. I followed Sean out of the consultation room. He was carefully supporting me at my side. I felt a little amused. What are you doing? There are too many people in the hospital. You need to be careful. I wasn't unaware of Sean's feelings for me, but I was carrying a child, and even if I didn't end up with Lucas, I didn't want to hold him back. Sean, you'll meet someone better. He was startled by my sudden words, stunned for a long moment. I know, but at least let me protect you now. All right. I shook my head helplessly and followed him. Although Lucas had given me the day off, I still went to work in the afternoon. Summer afternoons always make me drowsy. I sat at my desk half asleep. Sean suddenly leaned toward me. Sis, it's over. What? I wasn't fully awake yet when Sean handed me his phone. The screen showed the company's group chat, with all the employees in it. Lisa had posted several photos of Sean supporting me. Their posture looked very intimate. In the background you could clearly see the words obstetrics and gynecology. She added a comment underneath. I accompanied a good friend to her prenatal checkup and unexpectedly ran into them. Cassie wasn't supposed to be dating Mr. Lucas? How is she now going to the OBGYN with another man? The company's group is huge, with a lot of people in it. So after Lisa left, no one noticed she was still in the group. Usually the big group was fairly lively, but this time after Lisa sent a message there was no reply at all. Everyone in the company knows Lucas is after me. I felt a chill as Lucas came out of the office and stood in front of my desk. His eyes were red and miserable, as if he was really about to cry. He didn't pay attention to Sean beside me, he just stared at me. Explain. I stood up trembling. Calm down first, let me organize my words. Lucas fell silent, as if waiting for my answer. I stared into his red-rimmed eyes, truly afraid he'd burst into tears at any moment. That child is yours. I heard the sound of Maggie's cup hitting the floor and shattering beside us. Mine? Lucas looked bewildered. You mean, the one in your belly is mine? I felt something was off about Lucas, but I nodded stiffly. Yes, yours. The man in front of me let the tears fall from his cheeks to the floor, and he spoke cautiously. Sorry, I'm just too happy. I probably scared you just now, didn't I? Don't be afraid, sob. Lucas's tall figure turned quickly and strode into the office. Those of us standing outside were increasingly bewildered. He cried? I suddenly remembered that whenever Lucas's eyes had reddened before, he would either look down or leave. So, it turns out, that was him crying? I feel like I'm meeting Lucas for the first time. Sean's expression was hard to read, he tugged at my sleeve. Why don't you go comfort him? After all, Mr. Lucas is a man, and now his pride is definitely shot. In the office, Lucas was wiping his eyes with a tissue. I walked over and hugged him. Don't cry. I was planning to tell you. He sniffed, turned around, and pulled me into his arms. I'm sorry. I didn't consider your feelings before. From now on I'll be a good father. Well, I found it hard to say, about you crying, it seems everyone outside knows. He waved it off indifferently. It's okay, as long as you're back. Lucas and I got back together. Our more than 2-year relationship was no longer a secret, my colleagues were stunned. Now I'm Mrs. Liu, and we have an adorable baby boy who looks a lot like Lucas. Ever since he cried in front of me, Lucas has been like a turned-on faucet, tears at the drop of a hat, and I simply can't handle him. He seemed to have found my soft spot, even if his desires weren't met, he'd cry. What could I do? Of course I indulged him. Spoil your own husband, that's what you do. Cassie's perspective, Leo is already 3.5. He doesn't usually cry much, even when upset he just pouts. I asked him why he wouldn't cry. Leo's answer was this: Daddy drops golden beans every day, I feel ashamed. Boys can't cry. Me. That day I accidentally found a notebook in the study drawer. The title was Crying Diary. I opened it out of curiosity. Middle school is so hard, I don't want to go anymore. Today I cried for 2 minutes. Oh no, I did badly on the test. Cried for 1 minute. I felt a mix of amusement and exasperation. This was clearly a record of Lucas's crying times. I flipped forward and finally reached the page where I appeared. Cassie and I are together, cried for 5 minutes. Cassie said something that made me angry again, secretly cried for 3 minutes today. Finally really got Cassie, shed 2 tears this time, felt great. Cassie wants to break up with me. She even said she's serious about it. Cried for half an hour. I flipped back with complicated feelings. On a business trip for a week, missing her. Looked at photos and cried for a while, don't remember how long. She said she's had a pretty good week at work, so she only cried for 5 minutes. She wouldn't let me move back in, stood in the hallway crying for 3 minutes, couldn't let her see me so pathetic. Sniffle, I'm going to be a dad, cried for half an hour. Today Cassie and I registered our marriage certificate, I held back and didn't cry. Giving birth must hurt so much for Cassie, she screamed so miserably, never want kids again. Didn't dare cry, afraid she'd worry at a time like that. I suddenly remembered the day her water broke. Lucas calmly prepared everything. His hands kept trembling, but this time he didn't cry. Cassie, I'm here. I'm your husband, I'll always be with you. His voice choked, so he had been holding back tears. Lucas's perspective: I've cried easily since I was a child. Whenever I got emotional, even though my mom took me to many doctors, nothing helped. I just love to cry. Cassie is the bravest girl I've ever met. At the company I never cry, I always wear a stern face when I scold people, and they're all afraid of me. But Cassie is different. She must like me, she cooks for me every day and reminds me to wear more clothes. I never expected someone would like me, this crybaby. Cassie and I were together. But I didn't know how to be in a relationship. I thought that as long as the two of us were together, nothing else mattered. So I neglected her feelings. The first time she said she wanted to break up, I lost my mind. I drank a little and was muddled and cough, but I don't regret it. I'll take responsibility for her. But unexpectedly we still broke up. I felt we both needed some time to cool off, so I went on a business trip. But Cassie seemed to have cooled off too much, she really didn't want me anymore. I cried again. On another business trip I ran into a friend who was very good at relationships, so I asked him for advice. When he heard about the everyday life Cassie and I share, his eyes nearly popped out. He said Cassie must love me very much. Of course, didn't he see who I am? After that my expression grew increasingly grave, because he told me how normal couples should behave. Only then did I realize how absurd my past actions had been. Thankfully, Cassie still came back. I did not lose my moon.